Here we are going to simplify and combine radicals. Here we go. The first one we have square root of 50 plus square root of 98 minus 3 square root of 2. To simplify this, we have to ask ourselves what times what give us 50, and one of the numbers has to be a perfect square. Well, what do you think? Okay, yes, we are going to use square root of 25 times square root of 2 because, of course, when you multiply this and that, we still end up with square root of 50. And the beauty is that this right here is nicely equal to 5, and we still have the square root of 2, right? Next, to simplify this, here we are going to use square root of 49, and we will multiply this by square root of 2, because this times that will give us square root of 98. Now, let's bring down the plus, and this right here is a 7, and we still have the square root of 2. Lastly, this is minus 3 square root of 2 already, so we'll just write this down. Minus 3, and then we have the square root of 2. And yes, everybody has the square root of 2. Therefore, we can just combine this, and that. So here we have this and that is 12, and then we keep the square root of 2, and then we still have the minus 3 square root of 2, and in the end, 12 minus 3, we get positive 9, and then we still have the square root of 2. And with that, we are done. Now, next one. Let's see our 4 terms, and just be careful with it. For the 27, 9 times 3 will give us 27, so I'm going to write this down. This right here is square root of 9, and then we multiply by square root of 3. Well, don't forget that we still have a 3 all the way in the front, so I will have to write that down, right? This is from here. And then we still have to write this down. And if they are on the outside, they are multiplying, so we actually have to work out 3 times 3. Here, we still have a square root of 3 like this, so we have to maintain that, of course. Next, this right here is, of course, we can look at square root of 25 times square root of 5, because that will give us square root of 125. And the beauty is that this right here is nicely equal to 5, and this right here is square root of 5. So that's what we have right now. Well, continue. Here we have the minus a. Perhaps I'll just bring that down right now. Well, for square root of 108, if I do 3 times 36 is 108. So you can just try it. Square root of 36 times square root of 3. And another hint that I know we should use 3 is because we have 3 right here already. So most likely we should somehow use 3 so that the question is designed this, so you have to combine the terms. Anyway, this right here, square root of 36 is just a 6, and lastly, this right here is just the square root of 3. Yep. And lastly, here we have the plus. This is a 4, and we have the square root of 5. Okay. Well, now 3 times 3 is 9, and then we maintain the square root of 3. 5 is just the 5, and we have the square root of 5. And then this is negative 8 times 6, which is negative 48, and then we maintain the square root of 3. Lastly, we have to add the 4, and then we have the square root of 5. Well, as we can see, this term and that term, they both have the square root of 3. Therefore, we can combine the 9 and the negative 48. And when you do 9 minus 48, you end up with negative 39. And then you maintain the square root of 3. Next, I will do this in blue. As we can see, this and that, this right here has the 5 square root of 5. And this right here has the 4 square root of 5. So we'll combine it. 5 plus 4, we get plus 9. And we maintain the square root of 5. So that's pretty much what we have. And that's it. This right here is the final answer. You see, because the first one has square root of 5. The second one has the square root of 5, right? This is square root of 3 and this is square root of 5. They are different square roots, so we cannot proceed anymore. We'll just leave it like that, right? So these are the first two questions, and then we'll continue right here. Okay, so C is this. We have 3 square root of 40, and then we have x to the 7th power, and then we have to add 8x to the 3rd power, and we have square root of 90x like this. Well, let's go ahead and do some work right here. Square root of 40, we know 4 times 10 will give us 40, and this is good because 4 is a perfect square, so that's good. So I'm taking care of the number first. Square root of 4 times square root of 10. Perfect. Well, we also have to take care of the exponent. Here we have x to the 7th power inside of the square root. So what we have to do is 7 divided by 2. Well, if we do 7 divided by 2, we will end up with 3 with a remainder of 1. Right? So what does this mean? Let me put this down right here for you guys. First, I will write down the 3 on the outside, which is still just a 3. So again, this is from here. Next, square root of 4 is just a regular 2, so I will multiply by 2 right here. And then we see that we have the square root of 10 from here. So far so good, right? Now, this 3 is going to tell you, it's going to tell everybody that how many x you can take out. Well, 3. So we have x to the 3rd power on the outside. So let me write this down, x to the 3rd power. And we have a remainder 1 inside. That means how many more we have remaining inside. So here we will have x to the 1st power inside like this. So again, we're still dividing the exponent by the index, but this time, unfortunately, we have a remainder, so we have to do this. Alright, so the first part, if you want to continue to finish everything, you see this is 3 times 2, which is 6. And then we have the x to the 3rd power, and then square root of 10x to the 1st power. That's the first part. For the second part here, well, square root of 90, we can break it down. We know square root of 9 times square root of 10 will give us square root of 90. That's excellent. First, let me put down the plus and then bring down the 8. And then we know that the square root of 9 is just a regular 3. Yep. And then we see that the square, well, here we have x to a 3rd power. I will just bring that down. Lastly, we have what? This is square root of 10 inside. But don't forget that we still have x to the 1st power inside as well. And if you do 1 divided by 2, you don't get anything. So just remainder 1. So that's why x to the 1st power stay inside. If you look at this part, this is plus 8 times 3 is 24. And we have x to the 3rd power with square root of 10x. And as you can see here, this coefficient is 6. This right here is 24. And the rest, the x to the 3rd power, square root of 10x, they are the same. So we get to combine the numbers once again. So 6 plus 24 will get 30. And then the rest, you just maintain it. X to the 3rd power times the square root of 10x. And with that, we are done. Just like that. Okay, here is the last one. We have 4 square root of 63x to the 6th power. And then we have minus x squared and the square root of 28x squared like this. First, we deal with the numbers. Here, square root of 63, we know square root of 9 times square root of 7 will give us square root of 63. So already square root of 9 times square root of 7. So here, as we can see, I'll write down the 4 right here. And square root of 9 is just a 3 right now, right? Okay, good. And then the number, we still have the square root of 7. And same business. Right here, notice that we have x to the 6th power inside of the square root. So I will have to do 6 divided by 2, and that's going to give us a 3 with no remainder. This means I will just get x to the 3rd power on the outside. and then times square root of 7, and there's no more x because there's no remainder. On the contrary, earlier we had a remainder 1, that's why we had x to the first power inside. You see? Alright, so that's the first part, and then for the second part, square root of 28, we can say this is square root of 4 times square root of 7. 2 times 14? No. Square root of 4, yes, and then times 7 will give us square root of 28. Very nice. So let me bring this down. This is still a minus x squared, and you'll see, actually, let me write it down like this. We like to have the numbers go first. So square root of 4, this is just a 2. And then this is going to be the variable x to the second power, and then we open the square root. And this is x, well, this is 7 inside, so just write that down. Lastly though, notice that we have x to the second power inside of the square root. So I will do 2 divided by 2, which is just a 1 with no remainder. This means I will do x to the first power on the outside, and there's no more x inside right here, right? So have a look though. Let's multiply everything. 4 times 3 is 12, and then this is x to the third power with the square root of 7. Then you see this is minus 2, and you see here we have x to the second times x to the first, x to the second times x to the first. This is going to give us x to the third power, lastly square root of 7, like this. And yes, once again, this right here is 12 minus 2, and you see this term and that term, they are the same. Therefore, we can just do 12 minus 2, which is 10. And we have the x to the third power, square root of 7 at the end. Just like this, right?